Hello everyone! In this chess lesson we will talk about endgames in which two knights play against the king. If we talk about two minor pieces fighting against the king, we have three different combinations of minor pieces. We can have two knights, two bishops, or bishop and the knight. And this lesson will be dedicated to the positions of two knights versus king. Two knights are not strong enough pieces to force checkmate. So checkmate can be done only if black makes big mistake. This is why this endgame is theoretical draw. Let us take a look at this position. If white plays first move knight f6, black has only two options. He can play king f8 or really bad move king h8. If black plays this terrible move king h8, he will be checkmated by knight f7. But of course, it is not forced for black to go to h8, so instead of going to h8, black can go to f8, and then the game is drawn because checkmate cannot be forced. It is very easy for black king to escape towards the center. So two knights versus king is theoretical draw. But situation can drastically change if black has one pawn on the board. Normally in chess it is always better to have some extra piece or a pawn. But this position is important exception. Without black pawn on d file, this game is drawn. But with this pawn, white will win. The idea how to win this game is to leave black king without legal moves and force him to play with the pawn while pair of knights will checkmate the king. In this position, winning move is knight e4. Now, the best possible solution for black is to push the pawn forward, hoping that white will make mistake and capture that pawn, after which we have theoretical draw endgame two knights versus king. But white will not capture black pawn on d2. Instead of capturing the pawn, he will make this check knight g5. And now we see that black king is completely trapped in the corner. There is only one square, which is king h8. Now, what white has to do is just to move this knight from f5 into the position where it can make check on g6. We have two different possible moves to do that. For example, white will play knight e7. And now, without this pawn on d2, the game will be drawn by the stalemate. But since black has that pawn, he has legal move, he must play d1 queen, and then white checkmates knight g6. This starting position, which we have seen here, is already a winning position. From some random position, in which white has two knights and black has one pawn, it is very complicated to force black king into this checkmating position. We are going to see now one practical example from a very recent tournament in which very strong grandmaster won the game in the position two knights versus king. As you have seen, this is the game in which white was grandmaster Sergey Karjakin and black was American prodigy Samuel Sevian, and this game was played in the round 5 of the strongest open tournament in the world, Isle of Man, which was played very recently in England. This is the position after 56th move for white, where Sevian decided to play knight c4, and his plan was to capture this pawn on b2, hoping that he will make a draw because two knights cannot checkmate the king. If now Karjakin captures the pawn on g6, that endgame will be immediately drawn, because then, if this move happens, black will capture the pawn on b2, and after knight b2 we have theoretically drawn endgame. But white plays different. He is playing knight e6. After knight e6 move, he does not want to capture this pawn. Of course, black continues with his plan, and now we have an endgame, two knights versus a pawn. Black is still offering this pawn, but Karjakin does not want to take this pawn. And then, after a couple of moves, this pawn was blockaded. That is the first step, to blockade the pawn so that the pawn cannot advance anymore and black can use only his king. And look now how white is using the strategy of forcing black king in the corner, using only king and the knight on b2 with the help of the knight on g3, which is not moving at all. Now he is improving the position of the king, and step by step, using king and the knight, he is taking away possible squares and forcing black king towards the edge of the board. Note how white used his king to take away the most of the squares for black king. King d6 to take the square e7, and this is critical position. Here, much better move for white was king e8 here, and now it will be much harder for white to achieve his goal and to win this game. But Sevian made mistake and played king f6. At this moment, position is completely lost, and now we see great technique how Karjakin checkmates in a forced way. Knight from c to e4, king f7, king d7. And this is the most important moment. Look now what a great cooperation between two knights and the king. Look how all the squares are controlled and black king is in a sort of a cage. King f8, knight d6, king g7, king e6, king g6, knight e4, king g7, king e7, and now two options for black. In the game, it was played king g8. If here black plays king g6, then king f8, excellent move, king f7, king h6, king f6, king h7, knight f5, taking away the square h6, and now after g3, king f7, and after g2, it is a small trick now, and white has to be careful. Now it is not good to make check knight f6, because when king goes to h8, we need to checkmate on g6 square. But black promotes the queen on g file. So after any move, like let's say knight e7, g1 queen, we don't have checkmate on g6, because black will capture the knight and the game will be drawn. That is why, in critical position here, the winning move is not knight f6, it is knight g5 check. And after king h8, knight h4, and when queen promotes, we still have checkmate because black queen cannot capture the knight on g6. In the game, after white's move king e7, Sevian didn't play king g6, he played king g8. And look how the game ended. King f6, king h7, knight f5, and now very beautiful checkmate again. Knight f6 check, the only square is king h8, king f8, g2, knight d6, g1 queen and knight f7. That would be all for this chess lesson. If you like this video, please click on like, share or subscribe to my channel.